Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit about how to create shadows by using layers to select. Okay, and also, again, Photoshop is not the best design tool. It will work, it's just not necessarily designed for it. Okay, so let me show you a couple of options that'll help. So I'm just going to go ahead here, I'm going to make a new layer. I'm just going to pull out a circle for a shape, and I'll just make it some awful green, deselect. Okay. I'm going to grab my move tool. Right now, if I hold down Alt with my move tool, I can make copies. Okay, let's do 5 of them. Okay, and it'll automatically do that. Now, here's the thing: you'll notice up at the top when you have Remove tool selected, you have all of these bars. Okay, if you select all of the layers that you just made, not including the background, okay, you'll see now they're no longer grayed out. So if you hover over top, okay, and if you've used Illustrator before, this should be familiar. On the left-hand side are all of your align, and on the right-hand side here are all of your distribute. Okay, so for example, I can align them all to the left, and if I distribute to the center, it will pull them all together. Okay, same thing to the top. Okay, same thing to the bottom. So let me step back. So if I don't align them first, right, you see how it distributes them? Okay, so it's actually kind of useful. Again, Illustrator is better for this, but Photoshop will work. Okay, now let me give you an example of one of the things that you can do in Photoshop as well, and I'm going to show you on a playing card. Okay, so let's say, for example, let me turn off these layers. Okay, I have these two shapes, and I want to make it look like there's a drop shadow on the bottom shape here. Okay, there are a couple of different ways I can do this. Really, my goal is to not alter the pixels of either one of these layers. All right, non-destructive editing. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer in between these two layers. Let's just call it shadow. Okay. Now, what I can do if I want to paint a shadow on, okay, I can Command click or Control click on the thumbnail of my bottom layer. Okay, that's going to select that. Okay, and I can then Command or Control Alt click on my top layer, right, and it deselects that. So if I wanted to paint just this edge, okay, I'm going to go ahead and set this layer mode to multiply. I have a soft brush at 30% opacity. Okay, and I'm just going to brush a couple of times with the same color. Deselect. Okay, now it looks like I have a nice shadow. Very simple, easy to do. And the nice thing is I can turn this layer off, right? And if I move it around, I can always change things too. Okay, it also protects my background. All right, so let me give you an example of that with this file, which is a playing card. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and transform this into scale. Okay, and make it look like it's lying down. And then I'm going to make a stack of cards. Obviously, you could do this with multiple cards. Okay, you can either transform, free transform. Okay, you can also come in and transform in perspective from your edit, transform perspective. Okay, when you do that, okay, you'll notice, and it gets a little weird. I prefer to do this by hand just because it's kind of weird to try and by weird I mean like it likes to kind of flip in ways that I don't necessarily love. Okay, all right, so there we go. We're going to lay this down. I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to make a stack. So I'm just going to hold down Alt with my move tool, or I could just copy my layer, okay, and pull a couple of these off. Okay, select them all, let me move them down. Okay, here is where having them all selected, right, you'll notice again I can pull them into alignment. Okay, I can align them all in the center. Okay, and again if I select them all, okay, I can pull them back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of, and you'll notice too, right? You see how I have these guidelines? Those are found underneath of your view, okay, and that is snap. Okay, so I have snap turned on, and what that means is when I move this around, you see how these guidelines appear? And we'll try and pull it, okay, one to another. If that annoys you, if you don't want to do that, just go to view and turn off your snap. Okay, and now I can move it and it won't try and make anything align. Okay, now view, you can also choose what it snaps to, your guides, your layers, and your document bounds. Okay. In this case, again, Photoshop has made this a lot easier over the years, okay, to align things. Now, there is also, by the way, if you hit Command and your quotation marks, okay, next to your enter or return, you can turn a grid on and off. So if you want to align things to the grid, you can as well in Photoshop. Now, let me just say the reason why it doesn't work as well, you may think it does, is that when you print, your resolution is usually higher than what you have in the screen. So stuff could look like it's aligned and it could be off by a couple of pixels when you print. So if things like Illustrator or InDesign are better for layout. Now, if you're not printing to the industry, that's not a big deal. Okay, so I'm just going to make the first shadow here. Okay, and again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a new layer. I am going to Command click to select the layer underneath, okay, and then Command Alt click the one on top. I'm going to take a brush. I'm going to change this to multiply, okay, with like a medium gray, and I'm just going to brush right along here. Okay. Now again, I could pull this closer, right? And I can do the same for the one underneath. That's up to you. So what I want to see, okay, is I want to see you take the cards, put them in a stack. If you're feeling particularly ambitious, right? Try pulling them a little bit further apart. Something like this. Right, and then on your shadow layer, think about how that shadow would look. So I would make my brush much bigger, okay, and I would make the shadow darker the closer they are here, okay, to something like that. And I want you to stack the entire thing and make a shadow and make it look like it's 3D. So that's what I want you to do for the first file this week.